good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Convoy and welcome everyone. We can see you all connecting. You're a big group tonight. So these are the first minutes, and I ask you to accept the recording and also choose your language, the interpretation. Choose the right interpretation that you need. Let me just remind all of you how to find your interpretation.
Convoy everyone, I'm just here to say that welcome, of course, and just make sure that you choose the English interpretation by clicking below on the right in a globe symbol and choose there the interpretation English, or if you're from a smartphone, you just can click from in the three dots on the right side and just scroll a little bit, find the interpretation and click on English. I hope you will make it. In case you have some issues, just write in the chat and we will help you.
Someone is writing in the chat, and it's always beautiful and positive to use one of the ways to use Zoom so that we can feel connected, so that we can strengthen this feeling of being all together, researchers, and create this network of people who want to grow and get knowledge together and also have fun together. For us, studying, researching is a deep source of joy and fun as well. So let me and Gura put our images spotted for everyone. Okay, so Conte Gura and Convoy, everyone, welcome. I'm happy to see you and I'm happy to be here. Gura, let me share a couple of words and then I will leave it to you. I will just give a small, short introduction. And first of all, I want to thank you all of you who are greeting us here through the chat. And I want to officially say welcome to everyone to this event organized by the Alchemy School of Damanhur, one of those events that has the goal of involving you and bringing you into the world of the School of Alchemy, within the knowledge, the experiences, and what we can say it's the scent, the flavor of the path that our school offers, a path that is for those of you who feel recalled to explore deeply the topic of alchemy. So usually there are different instructors who will introduce you the knowledge, the knowledge that you will explore. We're talking about theory, but also practice. So please find yourself a nice place, a nice spot where perhaps you can have some privacy, and be ready to, first of all, have fun. These are precious moments. And if you are here, I imagine it's because you are curious to explore and find out together with us if this knowledge, if these experiences can be useful. We are in a world where, we are facing more and more constant change. And it's a common, this feeling of finding that path, finding that boat that can take us from this world to a new era, a new time, a new world, a new era that many schools, many traditions are announcing. And here we are now to experience this journey together. Zoom is part of this technology that we use in this magical spaceship, and Zoom allows us to interact. So you can ask questions in the chat, both if you have also technical issues, but also if you want to share your emotions, your feelings, your points of views, your experiences. So all your sharings are extremely useful. Also because perhaps it's from that we can then, choose to deepen certain topics or others. So now I will ask Gura to tell us a bit about the program of tonight so that we all know what to expect. And I wish you all a wonderful time together. May this be a deep experience, touching your hearts and enriching all of you. Thank you, Entella and Convoy, and welcome everyone. Tonight, this meeting, it will be entirely dedicated to the arts of alchemy. My name is Gura Loto, as you can see from the screen, and I'm one of the instructors of the School of Alchemy here in Damanhur. I'm part of a group. I'm part of the group which revisited and re-elaborated the teachings which were learned in Damanhur throughout 45 years. And we created a school out of this. So the school was created by a group of researchers that I'm part of. And tonight, we will introduce you to this sacred and magical art. It's a very ancient art. And in Damanhur, it has a very important role in our life, in our individual life. So tonight we're going to talk about 3 specific topics. As you may imagine, alchemy is a very big knowledge. It's a very wide territory. So tonight we're going to explore 3 fundamental topics when we talk about alchemy, the alchemy of this new era. And these are emotions. So I'm going to talk to you about emotions and how in alchemy we use emotions instead of consciousness to start a journey, a transformative inner journey, to start from a state in which emotions might limit us or might be conditionings, or we might call them, let's say, negative emotions, which could limit our own expression, and how can they be transformed in awareness. Then Tucano will join us and she will introduce you to the topic of magical instruments, all those instruments that the alchemist today creates and charges energetically so that they can be used as an extension of ourselves. In alchemy, we start from the body as the first magical instrument. Our body is the most complex laboratory that we have available at disposal. And it is the laboratory in which all transformations happen. But because we lost certain abilities throughout the millennia, or better said, because we haven't used them through the extension of ourselves, so external instruments, we can amplify and we can do many things so that we can perceive reality differently. And then Ragno will join us and he will talk about potential, the maximum potential that we can obtain from ourselves through the contact with the divine. These are the three topics we'll explore tonight. I invite you to ask questions, to participate actively. I will talk for myself, of course, but if you have questions or if you want to share anything, please know that I will read them at the end. At the beginning, I will start with sharing some content. Then I will open up to questions or to your sharings. I also want to say that this introduction, which is going to last until 9:30, 9:45 Italian time. So this will allow you to taste and understand what is alchemy in this epoch, in this new era from the Damanhurian point of view. And the 22nd, 23rd of February, we will talk about the course which gets deeper into the field of alchemy. And I invite you to join those days, because during those 2 days, during which we will explore much deeply, even also the topics of tonight, but we will explore them especially through practical experiences. So an important step of the alchemy today, an important part, it's about giving knowledge, but so that the knowledge can be applied to our everyday lives, so that they can become your own knowledge, so that you can better understand yourself, you can gain awareness of yourself through experience. I talk about emotions. Why do I talk about emotions? I got passionate. I was passionate. I've been passionate about alchemy for the past 23 years. And I started 23 years ago when I started my spiritual journey. And I got very passionate about alchemy, which I defined the alchemy of emotions or alchemy of state of consciousness, because back then, I have to say, I was very much dominated. I was very much ruled by my limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs. And that was the push to explore this field. I did it quite brutally at the beginning, because I joined a path made of very structured discipline. It was a monk path made of many, many practices, meditations, introspection, a path in which I directed all the energies inwards within myself so that I could understand who I was and how to get to know myself and how to start a process of change, to change myself and rediscover myself and getting closer to my abilities, those abilities that were hidden, or at least I didn't see them. Alchemy, as I said, is an art. In old times, it was actually considered to be science. Today, I call it art. I call it art, a sacred art. And the meaning goes beyond the meaning that it used to have in the past, which was about transforming metals. So today, alchemy of emotions and state of consciousness is that alchemy, is that way which allows transformation, allows to transform oneself. So it's a process through which each one of us can evolve, can purify him herself, and can reawake to reawake the true nature of humankind, which is a divine nature. And especially in these times, which where everything is accelerated, change is accelerated. In these times of transition, where there are many crises happening, many collective transformation and individual transformation, the alchemical path is no more an ancient esoterical discipline, but it's becoming a necessity, an urgency, because alchemy expands consciousness. And at the same time, while expanding, it decreases the weight of the external influences and all those conditionings that guide our existence. So it's a process that allows us to find our purest essence. It allows to free ourselves from those emotions that limit our expression and that limit, in fact, our maximum, our highest potential. So alchemy today is an answer, is a concrete answer, because it's very practical besides being theoretical. So it's a series of exercises, meditations, practices that support a natural process of transformation. It's not an easy path, not because the path itself is not easy, but because humans today, because of all the conditionings that we received and all those limiting beliefs, limiting thoughts that we have, I mean, all of this make the process a bit quite difficult. In the traditional alchemy, there are three principal phases through which the humankind transforming the being. And these phases traditionally are called the black, the nigredo, the white, and the red phases. Three stages that we can identify, with the first phase being a state of consciousness in which we experience mostly fears, conditionings that come from our background, experiences, family, society. And in this state of consciousness, the alchemist, the person who is approaching alchemy, can chooses to start seeing these blockages, starting to observe them, seeing them, to understand them with the objective of releasing them. And this is the first phase. Then we're going to explore them much deeply. The second phase, the albedo, the white phase, is that phase in which, after having worked with negative and limiting emotions, or those emotions that limit ourselves heavily, then we start a phase in which it's a process of purification, where through the purification of these emotions, we acquire a much clearer mind, much more balanced emotions, a deeper connection with our true essence, preparing ourselves to the following phase, which is the rubedo, the red phase, in which, because we are now free from this change that anchored us, that anchored us for a long time. Well, now we are free and we become creators, aware of our existence, and we express our full potential. And so we emit this light, this frequency every day in every aspect of our life. This process of change, and this is, in my opinion, the most important part. This process is guided by who? By you, by each one of us, by those who choose to do so. So this is a new paradigm that alchemy is approaching, where there's no more a master. There is no more that person who opens doors, or that person who gives knowledge, or that person who invites people to start processes. The protagonist here, it's you, each one of us choosing to start this process, starting first of all by exploring knowledge, alchemical knowledge, tools that allow you to do so. And then, based on the level of conscious awareness that you've reached, you then choose to continue exploring deeper and experience and live this process fully. So it's you. You are the driver. You are guiding the process. And it's a path that I would dare saying is a path for courageous, brave people, but especially for anyone. And in fact, we need to be brave. We need courage to do so for anyone who wants to look within with honesty, with authenticity, being able to offer to yourself, to give to yourself some opportunities using tools and alchemical knowledge, but by learning how to use your own life. So everything that happens in your own existence as occasions and chances to evolve. So going back to the Nigredo, so the first phase, let's explore a little bit what happens there in this first passage, in this first inner step. What happens there in this phase? This phase, as I said before, is the phase which is connected to the observation of our own thoughts, of our emotions, those that limit ourselves, the heavy ones, those that in alchemy we associate to heavy metal, to so then to recognize them, to face them, but most of all to recognize them, to see them, recognizing that we live most of our time, at least in the Western society, we spend most of our time complaining, judging ourselves, judging others, reacting to what happens to us. So this process allows us to understand how asleep are we, and how much do emotions, how much emotions take energy, steal energy from us instead of giving energy. And it's not easy to see these parts of us. It's much easier to do it. In my case, it's much easier to see my shadows because I live with many people. I'm surrounded by many people who, help me to see these parts. But if you don't have the possibility to be surrounded by people who feel free enough to express, and if you're not open enough to welcome what other people see in you, well, then we have to start another and use another mechanism. And it's a mechanism that in alchemy we call self-observation. And it's an exercise that we're not going to explore deeply now, but it's something that you could do to start seeing yourself with much more clarity. Humans today, even though we are not aware, we live in a state of we are deeply asleep. We are all governed by habits. We're all governed by habits and unconscious actions. So the first step would be to, first of all, become aware of it. Seeing ourselves, it's very useful, and that can be extremely painful at the beginning. It can start some reactions, trigger some reactions within us. But what I want to say here is that all emotions, all those parts that we deny of ourselves, are those parts that actually dominate us. Instead, and this is the magical word of this first phase of exploration of ourselves, if instead we are able to welcome, to see clearly these parts, these heavy parts of ourselves, welcoming them with no judgment and being detached from them, then we would start a process of rebirth, rebirth to a new awareness, a new consciousness, by being able to detach, observing them, because we're no more emotionally involved from them. That is why it's important to have an external observer, external to ourselves. Then we would become able to see what are the mental rigid structures that govern us. We would be able to see what are these stagnant emotions within us, because emotions are the consequence of a thought. We have a thought. Right after, what happens is that this thought triggers an emotion within us. The thought, together with the emotion, gives information to our body, which receives that information and starts producing chemical substances which correspond to that emotion, so that thought. Energetically speaking, what I can say here is that limiting beliefs towards us or towards others produce chemical substances that are harmful chemical substances which do not help us, do not help this process of purification or even acquiring new energy. So every time we have a negative thought, we are actually giving away the energy connected to that thought, and we give it to the negativity. On the opposite, if we were able to have thoughts of expansions, creative thoughts, these thoughts would create beneficial substances within our body. They create more energy. So the first phase of the black phase is also the phase that many call the phase of the inner warrior, because we have to start approaching ourselves with no fear, with no excuses or justifications, but instead with the courage and honesty to see those parts of us that instead of expanding us, they actually limit us. It can be a bit destabilizing because it's a phase in which we lose certainties. We start looking at our conditionings and beliefs differently, and we start breaking them up so that we can then open to new structures, releasing some emotional mental blocks that were there for a long time. So the common mistake that usually people who approach alchemy do, the common mistake is to resist. It's resistance, resisting change. So resisting change and feeding without being able to accept these parts that limit ourselves. So actually by doing so, we keep feeding those. It's a phase in which we embrace a new state. So it's the beginning of the new state, which it's unknown. And because it's still unknown, we could find ourselves in a chaos. But in chaos, creation can happen. We create a new order. So we should try to navigate these different parts within in this phase by accepting and with as much harmony as possible. We have to go through these times without resisting. This phase will then conduct us, will take us to the entrance, to the white phase. That phase that in alchemy is called the phase of purification, of reawakening, of the awareness. So it's that phase in which we can experience small, some insights, some small enlightenments, those moments where we understand things differently through this process of cleaning. And this is a moment of clarification, of clarity within our consciousness. And the mind becomes much more clear. The vision becomes much more clear. You become much lighter. And you start feeling yourself much more detached emotionally, not only from the emotions that you've seen previously as limiting ones, but also from those of others. I saw a question in the chat asking what to do when we receive negative emotions from others. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's about accepting them because, well, first of all, not everyone can like you. We all have our own perception of life. We all have our own logics, beliefs, and values, and so do others, you know? So acceptance is the first thing. We don't hold true the truth. We all have different points of views. We all perceive reality in a partial way. And this acceptance will allow you also to welcome much more with harmony the vision of others without taking it as gold, without even being offended by what others see in you. You don't take it personal, you don't offend yourself. But first of all, you thank them, and I know this is it's difficult. And when someone shares their point of view, you understand it's their point of view. And if you recognize in those points of views, you recognize some truth which can be useful for you to work on yourself, you will welcome them, and then you move forward on your own path. Others, we also have to take away in this process of transformation of our limiting thoughts and beliefs. We also have to take away the energy from the negative beliefs of others. So the energy that others have towards us, the strength, the energy that you give to what other people say about you is the energy that you are giving others to have that power over you. If you welcome that, you use it if you find it useful or not. You choose, and you choose how much energy to give it to or not to give it to. So the albedo, this phase of purification, allows you to do so as well. So getting much more detached, being more present to yourself, living in a lighter way. Remember that everything that you're able to do within yourself, you'll be able to do it also outside of you. So what I am saying, this inner cleaning with no judgment and deep acceptance of yourself, if you're able to do it with yourself, you'll be able to do it with others too. And this will free yourself and others from the weight of these emotions. In the albedo phase, the fog will disappear, confusion will disappear. And through this mental clarity, you will perceive much more your own luminous nature. And this will be the first step, the step towards the complete realization of the divine within yourself. Every emotion is energy. Every emotion, every thought is energy, is moving energy. Because besides producing some chemical substances within you, giving specific information to your body, it will lead you to action. So if you think about it, every choice that we make is moved by emotions. Every reaction is moved by emotion. Can we move from one state to another? Until these states are not stable, yes, we go through different states continuously. These states are processes and they happen in this sequency. And if they don't reach a point of stability, we will keep reaching them, but again, to always, different levels of awareness that we can get through the process. But there are some moments, there is a moment in which the process stabilizes itself. And from the moment the stabilization happens, which then we cannot go back. So the albedo, the white phase, is that process which purifies the mind and starts elevating the consciousness. The key in this process is the aware detachment, creating an external observation so that we are not completely involved and guided by what you live. The last phase, which is the rubedo, the red phase, is that phase in which you start feeling free. The veil that was not allowing you to see the reality falls off. And you start developing so what in the albedo was the most luminous part, in the now it becomes your essence, where you are able to understand the different parts of yourself. And we are made of many, many parts, and you start experiencing them as if they were one, guiding them towards a direction, specific direction, which is the direction of your own evolution, where you apply the principles, the knowledge that you learned during the first two phases, and you do it with consistency, continuity, and you incarnate, you live completely your full divine potential in your everyday life. The rubedo, the red phase, is the phase of the complete realization, living your divine being. And this is the phase in which the true alchemist, the one who reached this point, not only continues to transform, but actually is able to create. So the energy, your energy, purified, refined energy, integrated energy, is then being used to manifest your most authentic essence. In this phase, the heavy, the metal, all those emotions, heavy emotions that would make you be very heavy, then now they become gold. So fear becomes strength. The doubt becomes becomes a clear vision. And yourself, your individual self, then is connected to a much wider consciousness. Here, there is the complete union between spirit and matter. There is no more separation between spirit and matter. It's the complete integration. And in the red phase, the alchemy doesn't find doesn't want to transcend matter anymore, but instead here she makes matter divine, making it more and more alive, connected to one's essence by participating actively with joy and living the divine essence every day. This is the mastery phase, complete mastery of yourself, of creation, phase of creation as an aware act, a conscious act. So in this phase, every emotion, every action is aligned not only with your individual consciousness, but with a superior consciousness where you become a channel. You become a divine channel where you are inspired and you transcend the concept of duality, where there is no more distance and difference between the material and the spiritual worlds. There's no more difference between you and others. You live in full harmony. And here you become consciousness, a consciousness which is aligned to a universal consciousness. Let me check some questions. I don't see any more questions, but if you have questions and consideration, you can write down or you can open your microphone as well if you prefer to ask questions directly. These processes are absolutely possible. Lara is asking me, are you already in the red phase, in the third phase? And Gura says, I keep going through these different phases since I started my spiritual path. Consciously, more or less consciously, 25 years ago, I'd say I went through the three different phases. Now I talked about this crystallized phases as one after another, where then you get to the maximum rubedo. I don't know yet anyone, including me. I don't know anyone who is in the red phase expressed fully, completely. I met in my existence personally only one human being who reached that phase personally, and that person is Falco Tarassaco, the person who inspired the Federation of the Community of Damanhur. I don't know anyone else. The recording will be sent to you. You will receive it and you can answer to that. You can listen to that, sorry. As someone asked, is the process cyclical or linear? It becomes linear if we choose it with consciousness and awareness. And if in every phase we apply specific techniques and exercises to be fully conscious. So in alchemy, we teach some techniques to start these processes. At each phase, there are different techniques. So to become aware of them, because maybe we naturally go through those phases ourselves. But one of the biggest problems that we have as humans is to be present and aware of our own processes, being able to see those processes, because we are so much absorbed by our mental mechanisms, our habits, our routine, our life, that we are not witness of our own transformation, of our own process. Perhaps we go through them, we do that, but we don't notice that. And the difference here is given by the fact of being aware of it, and so that we can guide them. So we can go through this phases naturally. Maybe we have different experiences, spiritual experiences, we do different practices, and this can be one approach. But here I'm talking to you about a different approach, which is made of choice. It's a chosen one, and it's being applied in your everyday life through practices. And by applying this, you become aware and you guide it, and it's very different. It's very different. It's a very different process. So if you have any more questions, please write them in the chat. These three phases are connected to three approaches. The first phase is very much connected to knowledge. The Nigredo is very much linked to knowledge, knowing, studying, exploring, understanding more how we work. We as humans, understanding also more how does the universe work. So the esoterical knowledge, which at the beginning is intellectual, but then have to become a direct experience. The second phase, instead, the purification, that discovery, revealing to ourselves our own light, our own inner light. Well, that phase is linked to daring, starting some actions, doing things with courage, overcoming fear and limits which are, imposed by the society, by others, our mind. That is that phase in which you follow your own fire, your light. And this means to have courage and dare to experiment. So to face what we still don't know through action. And the third phase, the rubedo, is the maximum expression of our will, of our inner power, of our free will. the manifestation of the creative strength that we all contain. That energy, creative energy that manifests reality, that manifests our divine, our divinity, choosing to do so, to create our own destiny. The wheel is connected to the rubedo face. For duality, when you talk about duality, there is a question about duality. What do you mean with duality? Duality is polarity. Is here is not about limiting or creative beliefs, or it's not about the good or bad or a negative or positive, but negative and positive, but in terms of polarities. So there needs to be an equilibrium, a balance between polarities, an equilibrium that can be reached constantly and only from the alchemical point of view, only through consciousness, only through a path of consciousness. I don't know what you mean when you say alchemical marriage. In the question, someone is mentioning alchemical marriage. So if you want to say more about it, I don't know what you mean. So we are often overwhelmed with obsessive thoughts. How to stop this energy when this happens? That's a great question. There are some strategies, because if you think about it, often our mind works in patterns, going through similar patterns. So it's very easy to have repetitive thoughts. It's very easy to judge. It's very easy to be negative. It's very easy. When these thoughts manifest, and each one of you, each one of us have to find our own strategy, well, we should take some time to observe these thoughts, becoming aware of them. And I realize that this most of the time does not happen, because when they happen, that thought immediately gives an information to our body, and instead of taking the time to act, it actually reacts mechanically. So someone maybe comes to me and is aggressive towards me, then it's very natural, and it's very, sorry, not natural, but very mechanical, my reaction, the fact that I respond and react in a similar way. So being aggressive with negative thoughts as well. So the good thing, first of all, is not to respond, but to observe instead. Observe yourself and become aware of that emotion and that thought. If you're not able to respond in that situation that you are experiencing, you're not able to respond immediately through with words in a more assertive and welcoming way, producing a positive situation or creative situation that could be creative for all the parties involved, then you enter in your silence and express to the person you're talking to, you explain the process you're going through. So, and instead of reacting mechanically to those people, you take your time and you say, hey, listen, in this moment, I don't think I'm able to answer to you in a creative way that could be beneficial for both of us. So give me some time to think about this. And as soon as I can, I will come back to you and I will answer to your question or to your aggression or to your fight. But in this moment, I prefer not to do that. This will for sure shock the person in front of you, but it will also decrease all that negativity and all that energy that would instead destroy the situation. So try it out. Now I need to, someone says how not to risk not to be insensitive. Well, you will notice in the process, because detachment doesn't mean that you're insensitive. Detachment means to be able to observe the situation differently so that you are not completely involved. But this, you can get to this conquer this inner awareness, which is about being detached with emotion. So it's not about being insensitive. So this is something that can happen, that will happen in the process, and you'll be able to recognize this happening. So let me see if Tucano arrived. If you are here, Tucano. I take this chance to answer to the last question. So Irina says, it seems to me that the more I work on myself, the greater challenges I get to overcome. So she's just repeating the question, translating the question. And yes, the answer, yes, this happens. If you start such a process of transformation, inner transformation, the universe will respond. The universe will respond with greater synchronicity, bringing to you even greater challenges, because the challenges that we face are always measured based on our awareness. So the more awareness and consciousness you get, the more the challenges, become, come to you at that level. And yes, Irina, is exactly what you are saying. You'll have to face a new test, a new level, new experiences. Absolutely. I noticed that on myself as well. In my own processes, what I can say is that 20 years ago, when I started my path, I could never think of being here 20 years later, becoming a passionate researcher in alchemy and process of inner transformation. I never ever thought of it at the beginning of my process, and now I'm here to do it. The passion that I nourished in this past years, linked to this knowledge, linked to this magical art, brought me here. And I assure you that when I started transmitting, sharing this experience with others 15 years ago, to me it was a great challenge, a great challenge because I never thought of being able to transfer, to transmit, to teach knowledge to others because I was not fully leaving them, embodying them. So I was telling myself, who am I if I don't leave them fully first? In fact, I needed first to put together my own process of transformation, which continues, on which I keep dedicating lots of my energies together with the teaching, which to me is learning. Because teaching to me means that I keep learning as well. I want to thank you all. And I leave it to Ragno. I leave it to you. Convoy, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the lesson with Gura, and because I know her, I'm sure that you appreciated her and her lesson. And while we wait for the next teacher, for those of you who know me or don't know me, I am Ragno Lattuga. I'm the coordinator of the Alchemy School of Damanhur. And together with Gura, Tucano, and other instructors, we are among those who who keep experimenting in alchemy, in the alchemy field, in our everyday lives. So what you hear from each one of us is not just about theory. It's not only theory. We're talking about practical aspects of alchemy. Alchemy is a knowledge that needs to be experienced. And then it will get into ourselves, and then it will become consciousness. You will never find people here talking about things that were not experienced. Because if you haven't experienced that alchemical element within yourself, you cannot transfer that, as ancient said, from mouth to ear. This is a fundamental concept in alchemy. Of all the specializations, as a magical art, as a supreme art, alchemy talks about all the parts of the evolution of humankind, the attention to ourself, lighting the fire of the presence of the attention is the first of the topics, first of the operations that you will do and that we do in all the alchemical processes. From the lightning of the fire, you make the first step, and from there you move on. So this first part of Gura that she shared, which is more the mystical part, the part connected to the presence to ourselves, and that is fundamental, because then with the parts that Tucano will share, and then the parts connected to how to use the inner senses, then you will have the possibility to experience and leave the practical, technical part of alchemy, and the union between the power of the right hand and the power of the left hand. So the part of the practical magic with the mysticism, the mystical part of magic, the two hands which allowed humanity to evolve. So Tucano has some technical problems and a couple of aspects that I want to share, which are very important and to understand this experience. In a few weeks, we're going to start the path of this year. Every year we begin every year to give the direction of our magical vision and where we want to go. So the path will start, which is called the beginning of the path. We chose this name to make you understand that every one of us can start this path. And the beauty of alchemy is this one. It takes people from wherever, whenever they are in this moment, bringing them to their higher, to the next level, both those who already have some experience in magic and alchemy, but also those who heard about it for the first time. We all started from zero, all started from one. But that is the important aspect. The beauty of alchemy is that it's a little bit like science. These are the practical aspects that can be reproduced. Tucano is here. And there you are, Tucano. Can activate your microphone. Convoy, everyone. My name is as I said, my name is Tucano, the bird with a big colorful nose, joyful animal, playful animal, very sociable animal. That is why I chose this animal. You know, in Damanhur, we ask for animal name and an animal with which we want to exchange alchemically some characteristics through some rituals, which is the topic that I'm going to talk to you about. Magic is not just fantasy. Magic is something that truly helps us to use some laws which allow us in the field of the subtle to make some real actions. And in talking about our name, we create this connection between our aura, our essence, and the essence of what we call the mind of the race of the animal. And I chose Tucano because I love this animal. Noni is a plant, a tree, which has healing fruits. I'm a teacher in this school. I'm one of the co-founders together with Ragno and Gura. I've been living in Damanhur for 14 years now. I'm also a counselor, a coach. I work with hypnosis and I teach personal growth. So tonight I'm gonna teach about magical instruments. First of all, what is a magical instrument and how to start preparing a magical instrument by using the language of magic, a very specific and precise language. Now, let me explain. Let's, remind ourselves what is magic. I've just arrived because I was teaching somewhere else. If I repeat certain things that Rania already shared, you will forgive me, but I will for sure bring it from a slightly different point of view. So it will be a way to deepen the topic. Magic is a language. It uses symbols, gestures, sounds, geometries, everything that you imagine when thinking about language to activate forces, to activate energies. As I said before, it's not fantasy. It's the language which talks to the universe. A magical symbol is an archetypical symbol which works on this basic structure of matter, of this universe of the forms. Is not just a symbol. It's a symbol that goes at the basic of things, and so it's able to move very big energies, much bigger compared to my random writing. So of course my writing has a power because from the moment I use my thought, anyway, I will use the power of my thought, which is very powerful. But if that symbol has some specific shapes and other characteristics that I'm going to explain, that symbol together with the thought that I will put will be much more powerful. In fact, in Damanhur, we have an entire alphabet of symbols, very ancient one, because being ancient, time is one of the characteristics of the magical tools which give power to these tools, magical tools, in fact, and all this alphabet of that we use in Damanhur is called the sacred language, and it's something that you will learn in the alchemy school because those are powerful symbols. So in magic, if I can choose to use, sorry, I have a dog barking here. So if I can choose to use with the same intensity and same intention a magical symbol or another symbol, I will definitely use a magical symbol because it has an intrinsic power. What are the characteristics of a magical symbol or a magical sound or a magical formula or a magical movement, gesture? What are the characteristics and also the characteristics of a magical instrument? First of all, the usage of archetypical shapes, archetypical forms, which go at the basics of the different cultures that we're all part of. So there are different levels. The most ancient things also have a different characteristic. They have what in magic we call the density, temporal, the time density. What is it? It's about for how long have that gesture, have that sound, have that symbol, that formula, have they been within the mind of the race of humanity? What is the mind of the race? It can be synonymous. It's not really like that, but to understand it, let's say it's like the collective consciousness. So humanity does not forget. There is a container in which there is everything that humans do, and this we call the mind of the race of humanity. The same way there is for animals. When I'm I'm called Tucano, and I'm connecting myself to the mind of the race of the Tucano, all the different Tucano animals. But I also have a connection with the mind of the human race. What happens? A sound that have been produced for a very long time with that specific significance, with that specific meaning, has a time density of in what in magic we call the shape, the thought shape, the shape of a thought with energy also, because the thought has emotion and energy connected to that. If I say something, the word scent, or if I say the word killing, I'm not just emitting sounds, I'm transmitting an idea, an image, an archetype, the archetype of the perfume, of the scent, or the archetype of killing. They have a very specific meaning. So if that sound has been connected to that thought for a long time, if there are words that are even more ancient compared to the word perfume, which are connected to the idea of the perfume, those words will be much more powerful, because for much more time, humans have been using that word to give that meaning. I hope I'm clear here. So one word, one gesture, one symbol, the more they're ancient, the more powerful they are. For this reason, in addition to that, the more they've been used by people, because of the number of people, because many, many people use them, or because they were used by more powerful people. There are initiatic schools that give power to initiates, to magicians, to shamans, to alchemists. This school, they all use the same language they've been using the same language for millions of years. These ancient, powerful languages that not everyone know. These sounds, this language, these symbols, they are much more powerful because they've been used by people who had a certain spiritual level, which was much higher. They had more power, and therefore they nourished these words with a different density compared to what would have happened if a random person would have pronounced them. So what I'm talking about here basically is to say that there are two fundamental factors. First of all, is per se the fact that that word, that gesture, the symbol, that geometry should be connected to that specific function itself. And then I make an example. Actually, let me do it now. For example, if I show you, let me show you this. Let me show you this shape, the circle. This shape has a function per se. So, in your opinion, in magic, what do you use a circle for? Write it in the chat. What is the function of a circle in magic? This shape. What is the function of this shape? Spontaneously, what do you think about? Write it in the chat. Container, yes. Protection. Closing to. It's all right. Do you know why what you wrote is all right? Because the circle is an archetypical geometry. So you can't make mistakes. It's all right what you wrote. In magic, it's used exactly for what you said. What is this telling us? The circle, besides being a magician, not a magician, an initiate, a powerful person or whatever, besides this, beyond that, it's a figure which has this function. Let me make a similar example. And let me show you this other shape. This is also a very simple shape, right? A triangle. So if you were a magician, perhaps you are. So what would you use this triangle for? What is the function of this triangle? What does a triangle make to energy if the circle contains it, protects it, and all the functions that you described before? What does a triangle do with energy? What is the function of a triangle in magic, in your opinion? The triangle doesn't always goes upwards. It can go downwards or, on one side or another. People say concentrating, giving a direction, channeling, spreading energy, connection, elevating, grounds and lifts energy. Yes. Yes. It's, of course, a figure that takes energy and gives direction to the energy. Can be different directions. You can turn it however you want, but it's about, and of course, if it's a triangle which has some specific proportions, it can distribute energy in a much more balanced way. So it's the triangle is a shape that can channel energy. So if you have to transfer energy, the triangle is a good one. It's a very good one. So this is the first case, a figure which has an archetypical figure, has its own power. Those are basic geometries, archetypical geometries in matter. And of course, there are many much more complex ones, sacred geometries. But what happens when we talk about magic? It happens that the different magical schools and cultures, they create some sequences of movements, figures that have specific meanings in magic in that specific school. There are some words that are being repeated. At that point, then we talk about temporal density, time density. So then we create rituals. Then we create magical formulas. Rituals, for example, the solstice rituals have been done for such a long time all around the world, and they are so powerful, and they do it in slightly different ways, but the basic things are the most ancestral magic on the planet. is that knowledge, which is the deepest one, which is at the base of all cultures. That ritual is extremely powerful because it uses archetypical things, and it's been repeated for millions of years from all the spiritual schools of the planet. So a formula, a sequence of gestures, sounds, and symbols is what can be called a ritual. This is rituality. These are rituals. And it's a power given by the usage of archetypical geometries and shapes, which already have their own power. And in addition, there is the repetition. So throughout the years and time, so they create a powerful ritual. And of course, can be more or less powerful based on how many people used it, with how much consistency, for how long, with how much consciousness, and so on. What is your magical instrument? Because tonight I'm here to talk about magical instrument. Your magical instrument is an object which gathers power. My pen, and this is not a beautiful pen. Let's take another object here. Let's take a pendle. My pendle here has its own function as a pendle. But if I buy it at the store, it has a frequency, it absorbed frequency and the energy of those people who touched it, those people who came and look at it. So it's not my pendle. And it's not, it doesn't have the function that I want to give it. So in my case, for example, I'm a therapist, I'm a counselor, I want to help the person. I use the pendle also to help the person to understand what are the points they have to work on. So I want a magical instrument that, first of all, is connected to me, not on the owner of the store, of that person who went to look for it. And the first thing of the magical instrument is that it has to be purified. And today I will teach you the first method to purify, to clean it, to free it from the previous frequencies. And it's an ancestral archetypical method. A talisman, it's even something different. It's a specialization of a magical, it's a specific category of magical instruments that are used to bring in your aura a concentrated function which can orientate you and the events that you will attract in your life, because of the law of magic, which says that the similar responds to the similar. When you have a certain vibration, you will attract the events with that same vibration. So a talisman is that kind of object, an object that is charged. But before you create a talisman, you have to clean it. Like, I want to have this instrument that I'm showing you to help my clients during the therapy, to help telling them uh, on which problem to focus more. But this is just an example. Also, a talisman is, of course, a magical instrument. Your pen can become your magical instrument, because it can be a pen that is the one that makes you have some artistic inspiration. A pen that has the frequency of you, genius people that, come up with some genius ideas, and you bring out your knowledge. There are some pens here in Damanhur. Our founder here, Falco, he created some pens, magical pens that allow us to get some inspiration, but you can have your own magical pen. So the first step is to clean it. We have very powerful antennas, which are our hands, actually also our feet and our mouth. But these are points through which energy gets out and in. Today, let's start using our hands, but you could do it with your feet also. So you could actually use feet with the same function as well, or your mouth as a point from which the energy flows out. We have the different points where energy comes in and out in our body. The first thing that we teach doing in alchemy is to free yourself from metals. Why do we remove metals from our body? And in our school, we will explain this much more deeply, but we remove rings and metal from our hands because metal has a very strong energy and frequency. They create their own energetical movement. So when we want to create order, we free our hands from metal so that we have a free field when we use our hands as antennas. In Damanhur, in our school of magic in Damanhur, we always remove metals. I'm not saying that you have to remove everything from your teeth or, from your hands. Remove metals from your hands. Take your object, put it on your table or hold it in your hands. The idea is to channel our frequency by breathing, because this will also, you will hear this so many times. Breathing will pump energy. If you do not breathe, you will not move energy. So breathe deeply. Start doing it now. Take any object so that just we try as a little experiment. You take an experiment, you put it on the table and you put your hand on it with the idea of transferring your energy on it, or you can do it with the palm of your hand. In this moment, because it's a small one, I will use my fingers. And by inhaling and exhaling, think that you are taking neutral energy and breathe out your frequency, and imagine your frequency is going into the object through your hands as if you were inserting a luminous fluid in the object, and that light is your frequency. Your energetical signature is, you inhale, you take the energy from the cosmos, the prana, vitality, you fill yourself with energy, clean energy, and you exhale and you insert in the object your light, your vibration. And the more you do it, the other energy will get out from the object, sorry. What does get out? The owner of the store where you bought it, the energy of that lady that looked at it, and all of it. So the more you do this, by repeating that, you will clean the object, and the object will respond to you. So my pendle here, my object will turn when I tell it to turn. Why is that? Because it's a piece of me. It's set on my own frequency. It's my own arm. The more I use the magical instrument, the more I set it on my own frequency, the more it will react to my thought. It will become my frequency, my extension, and it will amplify my thought. Why is that? First of all, I will specialize it on a specific function. So let's take my pen as an example again. I want my pen for my own creativity. I want it to help me have access to the genius that I have. I want a pen that helps me connect to that part of me. In Damanhur, we say we have many personalities, but Jung says it as well. Many say this. I wanted to connect to that personality of me, which I call the genius writer, the writer that writes things that can open the mind and heart of people. I want to have access to that part of me. What do? I first of all have to enter into that part of me. So first I have to clean my pen as we just did. So I put the pen on my neutral frequency, that frequency of me when I breathe and when I'm in touch with the universe, with my neutral and clean light. So I remove all the other frequencies. Then I have to specialize this object because so that it can recall my power. We contain everything within us, okay? All the powers that. So I'm gonna start doing a small meditation. I will go back to that memory when I used that genius, when I wrote that thing that anyone who read it said, "Oh my God, you did something incredible." So I reconnect to that part of me. I remember when I did it. I stay in that part of me for some time, and at that moment, with my hands again, which are my antennas, I charge this object with this thought with so I print on it this babble of information, but I have to feel myself in that state. I have to remember how it feels when I write in that state, because we need the emotion. Otherwise, we would only pass the information, but not the energy. What writes down the information is the energy. So if I want to create, for example, a magical wand, which as a is multifunction, it's something we do in the first year of alchemy school, I will have to connect to the magician that I have within. I will have to enter in that part of me, and we'll do exercises connected to the ancient esoterical school of the planet, connected to presence, being fully present where you can get your maximum power. Like all philosophies say this, it's not we're not the only ones saying it. All around the planet, everyone say the same. So I will put my maximum power. So first of all, I have to connect to that. The power of me as a magician, as me as a divinity, I will put that into my magical wand. So that is a much higher instrument that will give me the access to my power, my maximum power with many functions. Now I was talking about the specific function of this pen. So I will print this energy to this pen, and I can not only do it once. The energy, it will transform itself, it will change, and it goes away. So we have to repeat it many, many times, remembering about our genius writer, and then print this energy, transfer this energy, this emotion into the pen, into the object, and then I will use the pen immediately after with no judgment, because then when we become anxious, we ruin everything. I often teach people how to open up to the paranormal faculties because I use hypnosis a lot, and it's simple for me to help people opening up. And the first thing we have to do is to disconnect expectations, remove expectations. Oh, I charge the pen, I will activate my genius, and I will write whatever comes out. I will use the power in matter in this way. And I use it, giving it density, time density to this instrument. The other important thing is to isolate the magical instrument. I'm giving here a lot of information that we give in our courses, but the last one here, there are some specific ways to isolate an object, and then I will close my part. My question here is, in your opinion, what is a color that isolates? What is a color, a frequency that isolates? I'm sorry, I need to take the charger of my computer. Give me a second. So look at this color. For sure it isolates. So of course, so anything will protect an object if you cover it. So keeping a magical object in, you know, look at the difference. What different sensation you have between this color and this color here. What is the color that gives you the idea of blocking, of isolating everything, that nothing passes through? The color. The color that we use is black. In fact, in here, I'm containing a magical book, the synchronic book, a book that we use here. This is not mine, but mine. The one that I put on my own frequency, I hold it here in black. The magical instruments, we hold them in black because black is that color that absorbs all frequencies, blocking them, isolating them. So we use this color. Your magical instrument needs to be, first of all, cleaned, charged, recharged again and again on the same frequency. So first has to be cleaned, meaning that it has to be put on your own frequency, removing those of the others. Then it needs to be charged on you, having access to the power of you, that ability of you that you want, and printed in that object, and then that object will help you to bring out that potential that you already contain within yourself. And then what you have to do, you have to use it, because the more you use it, the more powerful the object will become. And then you have to protect it, because if your son comes, your mother, your grandmother, your friend, talking to the phone with your consultant, those are all frequencies that will pollute that object, especially if someone would touch that object. Nobody will die if someone touches it, but better not to. Then it also changes based on the object. There are objects that if someone will touch it, they will, lose completely the power. But at the basic level that we're talking to now, we're saying if you start knowing the basic, if you start to know the magical rituals, the magical formulas, the magical alphabet, you can increase the power of your magical instrument even more. At that point, it's like the difference between a bicycle and a Ferrari. So of course, we're not going to learn it now in 10 minutes. This is what I'm able to transfer to you today, which I think it's already enough because it can have great effect. Try to expand it to your whole house. Imagine how powerful objects are on you. Imagine how many energies you have, frequencies you have around. One exercise that you could do is to start breathing, do a meditation, and then look at the objects in your house and think, okay, that object, is it influencing me positively or negatively? What do I feel connected to that object? Then you can use the system that I explained before to clean it, removing the frequencies and energies that are not yours. Or you can give the object away. Our houses are full of objects that we don't need. Or you could do the same with your bed, charging your bed, your pillow, whatever, charge it with your own frequency with positive thoughts, because everything that surrounds you can influence you a lot. So I hope I started giving you a first understanding of what is a magical instrument. You can answer to the questions, of course. Is this a multidimensional power? Yes, of course. Every time we work in matter, there is a law which says, as above, so below. It doesn't mean that only in the galaxy there is a spiral movement and in our DNA as well. This is one of the ways we read that law of magic, which says, as above, so below. But the other way of reading this law of magic is also to say, whatever happens in the subtle worlds happens in the material world and vice versa. That's why I'm saying think of the object, put your emotion in it, because you are creating a thought, an energy that will be printed into the object, activating the function within yourself as well. But then you have to use the object, because making things happen in matter, making you become a genius, creative genius in matter, will nourish also your subtle, in the subtle world. So there is a constant relationship. So magic is a multi-dimensional thing, of course. Magician who do not take care of their bodies, they're not magicians. Magicians use, first of all, their body as their first magical instrument. Is there a field in life where we should not use magic? This, what you're talking about, it's every time you would influence the free will of other people. Black magic is what acts on the free will of others. And this is not what we want to do. We can inspire others. Communication is hypnosis. So when we talk, we open doors within others. A word evokes an emotion, a thought. So we are all hypnotizing each other's continuously through communication. So it's normal to influence each other, to inspire each other, but it's different compared to wanting to influence by using some power in a violent way the free will of other people. This is not allowed in white magic, and it's very bad karma. The initial cleaning, should it be repeated many times? Yes, of course, because what I teach today is a powerful exercise, but it's the first level. So it needs to be repeated many more times. You know, the more you do it, the more you are sure you're going to clean that object. And you can also train yourself to feel what happens. You have to use your senses, what we also call the inner senses. Tarots, someone asked about tarots. Tarots should be clean, but they're connected to the energy of the full moon. So besides cleaning them and putting them on your own frequency, you can also expose them to the light of the moon at night, or use them in front of the moon so that you prepare them. I let the stage to Ragno, and if you have more questions, you can find me on the social media with my name, Tucano Noni, both in English and Italian. If you know, give me feedback or, ask specific questions, text me, write me on my social media, and I'll be happy to answer and to connect with you. Thank you all, and convoy. Thank you all. You met two different approaches, a more mystical and more technical approach. Tucano shared something which is very much connected to the teaching of our school, the practical aspect that I shared before, and she spoiled some things of the school, and it's good because we consider these moments some, learning moments, as if you were already in our classroom participating into our school. My intervention tonight is connected to the concept of the philosophical stone. What is the philosophical stone? And how is that linked to our school and alchemy? The philosophical stone, in ancient times, one of the main objectives of alchemists was the creation of this, so the philosophical stone was the sum of all the powers. Today we could define it as a supercomputer of the highest quantic intelligence, able to work, create, transform, do everything for those who can use it, for those who own it and are able to use it. Who creates the philosophical stone? The philosophical stone is created by alchemists who live their life to reach the famous elixir of a long life, the transformation of metals to gold. And in ancient times, the classic ancient times, so Greek, Romans, or all the alchemy connected to Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, or the alchemy connected to the magic of the North, the Celtics, or the magic that was brought in the anyway, the ancient times that I mentioned. So alchemy was always a point of refinement, a point of power dedicated to only few. Why is that? Because knowledge, as we said, are power. So power is knowledge. And so they were dedicated only to some classes of priests or certain schools that were hidden only to few people. Esoteric, the word esoteric means knowledge for few, and exoteric is knowledge for everyone, open to everyone. In Egypt, Thoth was a famous one, Ermetre Trismegistro, with the aspect of the knowledge that was connected back to Atlantis. Atlantis was the moment in which our race used and experienced and practiced the highest level of knowledge in alchemy of alchemy. Someone writes Zoroastri, yes, absolutely. In different moments of civilizations, many developed this. The classic alchemist of the golden way. Well, anyway, in the history, we have many examples. What happens is that in the ancient times, it was very much used, the alchemy of the forces that were created outside of us, so that then they would get the respondents within. So when alchemist was able to transform metal into gold, then they would demonstrate they reached within themselves that level of knowledge that would allow them to do so. In Europe, for example, it existed in Middle Age. There used to be in history, there was, for those who know history, at a certain point, there was such a high level, a high quantity of gold that the price was, low, because, price is based on quantity. The philosophical stone is the addition, the sum of knowledge. Today, talking about us, what is our philosophical stone? The alchemist of today, do they still create potions? Do they still create these refined materials to transform metals? No. Because today, the most powerful alchemy, and also open to everyone, is what we call the alchemy of alive forces. So we're no longer working outside of us, but we're using the most sacred and powerful alchemy, which is the one that creates or rediscovers our philosophical stone, which today we call the divine spark. Our philosophical stone is the divine spark that we contain within each one of us. Our soul comes from the divine spark. Our material body, our experience on earth comes from the divine spark. The divine spark is the greatest part of each one of us. All the rest is a consequence of it, is as they used to be in the past. is the shadow of our own existence. What we can see today on earth and the experience that we have is the manifestation, and not the origin, but it's a manifestation. So we have to have it clear, because in fact, in the most powerful and ancient alchemy, the objective was to get to know yourself, and by doing that, you would know the universe. Tucano talked about the space of time power connected to that knowledge. What we're talking about here, we find it on the big temples, the famous temples, where they would write, know yourself and you will know the universe. Because already in ancient times, they knew that the focus, the main point is us. In fact, the humankind, the human body is the instrument, the most important instrument that we have is the perfect alchemical instrument. From there, everything else that was created is needed to amplify our potential. Like a singer using the voice, you can then create a microphone, an amplifier, and then the voice can be heard in a bigger stadium with 100,000 people. Or through television, you can mainstream the voice to the world. These are tools. But as we said before, we have to start from us first of all. And tonight, I want to bring you here. I want you to have an experience, direct experience of alchemy, higher alchemy. What you talked about with Gura is what we call the inferior alchemy. It's a type of alchemy that was called the alchemy of transformation of ourselves. Know yourself, see what are the parts that have to be purified, clean, create order, which is an aspect, fundamental aspect, and then that will allow you to have access much more easily to what it's contained within. Then there is an alchemy that in the tradition is called the superior alchemy, which is about the contact, the direct contact, and the direct expression of our divine nature. And in the tradition, this is for few, they say. Why is that? Because only few people have the ability to have their to be constantly in contact with a divine spark. That is the result that sooner or later, in order to evolve, to evolve, we need to learn to get there. Tucano talked about the ritual language. The ritual language, which is very much practiced in our school, is a language which allows you to create that structure so that then you can open up to this superior nature, higher nature. Is the bridge which connects. And unfortunately, because of many reasons and situations, we forgot about it. We lost it. We haven't been taught to. When we were kids, they taught us to walk, to speak, to write, but they haven't taught us how to move our consciousness. They didn't teach us that apart from our external senses, we have our inner senses, the senses of our soul. And first of all is the sense of the divine, the sense that we have and that we feel in our life. We feel that we can perceive that we are divine, and that it's that sense that make us ask ourselves those existential questions. Who am I? Where do I come from? goal of my life? All these questions come to us at least once in a life. Everyone asks themselves such questions. From the ancient history until today, these questions, this nature produced the fact that we all asked ourselves, is there something beyond what I feel and what I see? And from there, religions were born, spiritual paths were born, groups that research were born, and so on, because there is this need of finding the answers. But these answers are not to be found outside. The true answer is within us. Why is that? Because there is our divine nature. Even Egyptians, they would bring the attention to different points of the body, which were considered to be the points of connection between the human and material part and the spiritual part. For example, the throne of Horus. The throne of Horus for the Egyptians is a very clear figure which defines parts of our brain. That point of contact between, if we were tracing a line between our ears and our third eye, in the middle there, where these two lines cross, we would find what today we call the pineal gland. What is the pineal gland? Is that point of contact, that radio that we all have, which is the link between the material and the spiritual parts. When I talk about the spiritual parts, what I'm talking about is the part that it's on all dimensions, the astral dimension, different levels until we get to what in Damanhur we call the threshold and the real. Those places which are not places which include everything, and everything is included. We're only one of the manifestation of all. This is only to frame the situation, but I want to have a short meditation so that we can contact these parts of us within us, because each one of us has this. We are all divine, all of us. Then when we are born, in Damanhur we say that when we are born, we enter into the pig, we enter into matter, and we forget. We forget our divine origin with our true nature, and we have to rediscover it. And when we do so, we open up to the marvelous world, and we discover together now, for those of you who want, we're going to look at how deep is this divine part of us. So my proposal here is to have to do a guided meditation where I will guide you to get in touch with a part of you, part of that you have your own center, your divine spark. To do so, we need, first of all, to sit yourself in a comfortable position. The best would be sit down. Your hands are touching your legs and your feet are on the ground. Everything is free. We're not crossing our legs or our arms because we want to activate a flow, and we want our energy to flow freely. And how do we recall that energy to activate that spiritual part within us? Is first of all with the alchemical element, which is air. Air is that alchemical element that not only brings oxygen in the material parts, but also it brings the prana energy, the vital energy. And today, each one of you connected, you have the possibility to connect to a very high energetical level, what we call the basic prana. The prana energy is a very refined energy at a divine level, which is used to nourish spiritual each individual. And it's also used to help us get in touch with our self, with our higher self. This is what we're gonna do. So if you know us a little bit, you know that breathing to us, it's done by inhaling through the nose and then you exhale through the mouth. Bringing within yourself with full presence and attention, you bring oxygen, which nourishes you. It brings oxygen to all the parts of your body. And breath after breath, not only you get oxygen, but also the vital energy, which then opens up our energetical connections. Breath after breath, we feel the air entering through our nose. We feel the weight of our body on the chair, on the sofa, whatever we are. We feel the heat of our hands. And all of this helps us to bring the attention towards us. And breath after breath, we feel the energetical presence growing within us. We activate the energy. We attract energy, the energy that we need now to activate the energetical motor, this inner senses of our soul. And breath after breath, we imagine we are in a city. Perhaps it's a city that you know, and you walk around. Many people, many noises, cars going by. We breathe and we walk freely around the city. And we look at the horizon and we see in front of us, there is a path leading to a hill, and on the top of the hill there is a palace, which is a special one. It's luminous. We keep breathing and we walk towards this building, this palace. And this palace, the closer we get, we see a lot of light. It's special. A little bit as if, it's a castle of a fairy tale made of crystals, luminous, reflecting all the colors, and the light is not reflected on the walls, but it's coming from within. There is a shining light. And I keep breathing and I walk through the gate and the entrance of this beautiful palace. And at the entrance, we find all around some beautiful mirrors that reflect our image, reflecting our image in a special way, in a very luminous way, with some faces, similar faces. It's us. We recognize ourselves, but also with different clothes. But they're very familiar to us. And these are our personalities. We see the different parts of our soul. And breath after breath, all these parts start smiling at us. They recognize us because we recognize them. We recognize each other in this beautiful palace, in these corridors, shining beautiful. And the more we walk through them, the more we feel attracted by this light, this spiritual light, which is coming from the center of the palace. In the central hall of the palace. And we keep breathing, and then we find ourselves in this beautiful hall. Beautiful, full of drawings, alive drawings, moving drawings. And they all reflect our own image, what we've been, what we will become. Because our soul is above time. It's present both in the past and the future. It exists in many different dimensions and in this one. And breath after breath, we move, we see at the center of this whole a throne, luminous throne made of crystals. And the light is coming from there, and we feel that is our throne, our place. And the closer we get to it, the more this energy is luminous and the more it makes us pure. And while breathing, we sit down, and that is our home. This is our home, the throne of our existence, that place where human nature is one with divine nature. And breath after breath, this light coming from there, we discover that it's us. We are transmitting this light. This is our light. This is our color, illuminating the whole beautiful palace, illuminating the entire city, illuminating the entire world. But most of all, in this very moment, we are united with all our parts. We leave this moment, this action of creation. From now, from here, we know that we perceive, we can see, we can know what is the goal, the purpose of our life. Receiving inspiration, receiving this vital energy that heals us, that nourishes us, giving us a direction. And here we find our philosophical stone, our divine spark. And now all our divine sparks are vibrating together like the facets of a huge crystal, aware, conscious, with no more division. There's only union. There is participation. And breath after breath, we are a facet of this crystal expressing our unicity. And this crystal is becoming even more lucid, and the light is even more powerful, even more beautiful, even more colorful. All the colors that we recognize, but also those that we don't recognize. Breath after breath, we live our nature. We perceive it, we express it. And here, we don't have needs. We only need to express our nature with the full power the full strength and energy of the sun. And we breathe deeply this eternal moment. Our nature is eternity. This eternity which colors our life from now, but also the life of the future. This is the nature of our divine spark. And breath after breath, feeling grateful with a smile on in our soul, we then stand up from the throne and we are now conscious. We're now aware, walking on a way of evolution, walking on a way where we can manifest the spiritual beauty that we contain. And this palace is within us. And we will bring it with us in the world. And this light touches everyone around us, all creatures, all places, step by step. We're coming back to where we started. That place where we are enjoying this moment together with many people, a group of peers, a group of people aligned with the same dream, the same objective, which is about expressing the best part of ourselves. This is alchemy. And breath after breath, we feel our physical body regenerated, recharged with this awareness that it's growing within us like flowers blooming in springtime. And now we can move our body a little bit, feel our hands, feel our body, feel our face, and smile. Whenever we open our eyes, we smile to life. Because if we bring this frequency to the world, we will also meet this frequency back. And now here we are. We are back here and now together in our body. We are back, ready to live a new experience in our life. Here we are. I hope you all touched and felt and perceived your own nature. This was a first step within the discovery, the rediscovery of the beautiful nature that we have within. We will continue this experience together. For those of you who'd like to, this moment that we call the beginning of the path, the 22nd and 23rd of February, in a few weeks. Some of you already signed up, some others will do. You're all invited because that will be a moment to choose a better life, to choose to make a gift to yourself. And this is the time. You are welcome with the instructors. You will meet the instructors that you met, Gura, Tucano, and me, to live together an experience of reawakening and practice tools and knowledge that for those of you who will use them, they will transform our metal into alchemical gold and live it not in 100 years, but live it from today because today is the moment. Now is the moment. Our planet vibrates on the new frequency, on the new era. We have to learn to direct our energy, our spiritual energy, to surf on these waves and awake on a higher level. But those who will do it will be the lucky ones, opening the way to everyone else. So my wish here is to see you all and participate as a group of friends, as a group of researchers, researchers of the being, and participate together to this great opportunity. I want to thank you all as the coordinator of the school. And I thank you also from the teachers that you met, but also from all those who you will meet that you haven't met yet. We will touch many topics and many more things that will be a little bit like putting the feet on the moon for the first time, new places which we cannot even imagine now. The beauty of alchemy is to discover the beauty that we carry within ourselves and express it. Thank you all very much and enjoy alchemy. Have a great alchemy to all of you, and good night for those of you who is about to open up to the world of dreams. That is also alchemy. Convoy everyone, and thank you. Bye.